Hard times build character.
This isn't just a show, this is real life. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
You gotta see it before anyone else can see it.
Every second, every minute, every day.
We train for life. We got you.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Relentless Way podcast. Paul Alvier here with my longtime friend and business partner, Matt Strout. We are here for another episode of the Relentless Way. We hope everybody is enjoying and getting good perspective from all of our listeners. We had some great guests on the last couple weeks, from Kara and Karen through our community to Brian and Drew from our team. So we really hope that everyone's being able to pull some valuable lessons from these perspectives, and most importantly, it's smooth and they're enjoying it. If there's anything that we could do better to improve, please let us know. Reach out, give us a ring, hit us up.
Yeah, we're always looking for that feedback, that's for sure. Whether it be different topics to talk about, different questions you want to throw out. If you want to come on, we're always looking. Yep. That's always open, so definitely reach out, whether it be through social media. If you have our number, reach out. We freely give that out as well. The mission is relatability, perspective, connecting humans. And also with that said, if you ever feel like somebody that doesn't know what the Relentless movement is about, and you feel like you hear some juice that that could hit them, send it out, please. That's the mission. That's all we ask, is just to keep compounding the message out and the mission of the Relentless movement.
For sure. We are here today for season 3, episode number 9. Anxiety plus panic plus awfulizing equals the old him. So I'm going to start off by kind of highlighting that title a little bit, and there's a word mixed in there. There's anxiety that we all know that a lot of us feel, whether we admit it or not. It's something that's out there in the world at all different levels, and I think at any level of anxiety deserves attention and deserves tending to help improve and change. We have panic, which is sometimes brought upon through anxiety and through certain anxious moments and stressful situations, and then we have awfulizing, which is a completely made up word and it is something that came through during my personal journey, and I'm going to help highlight that today. I'm going to help kind of go back and reconnect to that. It's actually something that came on very in the latter end of my journey of anxiety and stress and panic, again at higher levels than most, but I understand there's people out there that experience it a lot worse than potentially I did. But this word and this tool, I like to call it, actually, because this word became a tool for me that was introduced to me more in my college years, and towards the latter end of my story, as I mentioned. But we will get there. It's definitely an impactful word to me.
Yeah, and just to touch base on the topic is obviously something near and dear to Paul and myself's hearts. We've talked about it over the years. It's something that we've worked. I would say we worked against possibly, and now we work with. Right, so I think that anxiety is something that's never really going to go away. Drake actually has a cool line. I'm a big Drake fan, but he has a line in one of his songs, and he says that anxiety is the medicine that helps him get the job done. But I could truly, truly relate to that, because I understand that. I understand how he uses it as a tool, because I believe anxiety is really what anxiety really is the overthinking of the future and getting yourself lost in what is not yet.
Right.
And why not yet? Why don't I have this? You start getting overwhelmed of what's to come, whether it be new experiences or big things coming up or shifts or changes. And it's human nature to have those feelings. And I think that if you don't go out of your way to either learn or be taught how to use that, and then how to put tools in place, like Paul just mentioned, it's a struggle. It's a forever struggle, right? And I think the way I like to look at myself personally on the way that I've used it is, in the beginning, I definitely didn't use it as as like a tool, right? I use it as something that was there that I was like battling against in a way. And I feel like me personally, there was always something deep inside of my heart. I like to use the word love. Love is what I'm powered by, that allowed me to push through the anxiety and the different adversities and the changes and the struggles that got me to the other side. And, as of even most recently, really like pandemic time, when I had a lot of time to reflect and think a lot and put some alone time in, and I have gone back to now appreciating the kid that I was back then, and now my day-to-day activities are to understand what life is and be proud of who I was when I got through it without even knowing what I was doing. But now my mission is to prepare myself as who I am today to be able to handle what life brings. And that is where we have all these different tactics and tools and techniques that we have worked to create together. We go out on our own and bring them back to each other. We try new, we change, we pride ourselves in that together, as well as our team all the way down the line of constantly bringing new things to the table and shifting. But ultimately, it's about understanding we're all different, and that there's a lot of different tools out there, and it's about kind of picking and choosing and then finding the system that can work for you and ultimately help you be your best self. Basically all the time, really. That should be your goal, right? Whether you're being, for us, it's a husband, a father, a leader, a son, and an uncle. Like, whatever we're being in those moments, our goal truly is to be our best version of that. So how do we do that, And I think we're going to go a little bit deep now, and I want Paul to go deep, because the journey and the lessons acquired, they haven't just started, okay? This has been something that has been going on for a long time, and as we've gotten older, and we have a lot of great talks very often, and we go deep together, it allows us to kind of think back and then connect these dots of like, wow, like this goes like really far back, and it's kind of cool, these different lessons and things that have put things together to get us where I am now. And the fact that I can go back allows me to understand, or allows us to understand ourselves even better, and then use that to only enhance everyone else around us now, especially having our own children, being around young youth, and helping them develop in the world of today, which is a little different. So we pride ourselves in that. So I want Paul now to take us back to, the beginnings for himself of understanding that there was definitely that when he realized there was that little burning fire sensation in his belly and chest that we all know, and we all know that feeling of what that is, right? So I want Paul to go into the depths.
Yeah. So to start off, what I want to do is I want to connect it to the relentless journey as well. So to give everyone a clear opening and a clear pathway to come along, my perspective with me over these next 45 minutes to an hour or so. I want to start off by highlighting something that Matt just brought up, and he talked about how the anxiety is driven from futuristic thoughts and from us being concerned and worried and fearful of things that are potentially going to come our way, whether it be good or bad, right? So something that we set out to do naturally, but also by a lot of choice, especially as we started to grow through the journey through Relentless, was to approach individuals in that way, right? And understand that every single person walking through that door, whether they're young, whether they're middle-aged, whether they're older, whether they're in the best physical shape or not, has a way that they're, we talked pre-show, a way that their brain is wired, right? And for some reason, that person walking through the door is looking for help and guidance. And it's at all different levels. Some of them don't even know it, right? Some of them do know it and they're open about it, but our goal is to get them to the point that and it's obviously a beautiful thing when we can address it at a younger age and at an earlier stage, put it that way, right? So again, an earlier stage doesn't mean that they have to be young. It could just mean that they're experiencing these feelings and these emotions for the first time in their mental space, right? So for me, that time was as a child, right? And it was actually, it's unbelievable to think about because I recognized it early on, and every single stage that I'm going to bring you through, and a couple stories that I'm going to tell to highlight those stages are actually, I was aware of it through the whole entire time. And I think that's what helped me change faster and address it before I got into my adult years, to say, right? And still, obviously, it's still something that I work on and I prepare for every day, but it allowed me to be open about it and to speak about it. And that's something we talk about with our team members, with our community, that step one is for them to be ready and for the individual to recognize and understand it. So for me, it was as a child, right? I was a good old mama's boy. I'm the youngest of two. My brother's 14 months older than me. My mother stopped working to stay home with both of us. My father worked in the airline industry, and at that time, that was just that was the shoe that fit. You know, that's how it worked. We were very close with our mother. We did a lot of different things. She was a huge advocate for any of our out of home activities and was always with us. And my father as well. He always made it. He always was a part of it. We were tight with our family. A lot of visits from family and friends. A lot of traveling, things like that. But I want to say that when I look back and really recognize it, that it was built / created off true love and comfort, right? And I think the fact, and these aren't bad things, right? But unfortunately, these are things that are huge in our upbringing. And I think both my parents and my family, they gave us so much love, which I would never change for the world, right? Mm-hmm. Love, love, love. As Kara said when we left off, I think it was last episode, nice. She talked about just being kind, and what she means by that is just giving off love and appreciation and being kind to people, right? And then there's the comfort end, right? And I think that's just the way of the nature of the parent, right? And the nature of the leader is to comfort an individual consistently. So I think that my parents saw many situations, and I wasn't spoiled by any means. We didn't really have it that way, especially financially, or I wasn't given materialistically. I wasn't given it all this stuff, but I was spoiled in comfort. I was spoiled in the fact that maybe if there was something, I was the baby, I was the mama's boy. If I didn't want to sleep in my bed, they just wanted to give me comfort and let me sleep with them for the night. Or if I didn't want to go, if I was at a sleepover and I couldn't fall asleep, they would pick me up and bring me home. So there wasn't as many moments early on that they were putting me through to feel those uncomfortable moments, right? But I must say, as we got to that next chapter in life, and that was really like my, as far back as I can remember, as my preschool and elementary school days, they started bringing that about, and that's what I'm thankful for. Is there was moments where they said, "Hey, we're going to teach you how to make adjustments and how to adapt, but we're not going to so fully give in and let you get what you feel is right because you're uncomfortable and you're anxious and you're nervous, right?" Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna give a story on this. So I was in second grade, and it was really hitting me. I think second or third grade. It was actually third grade. It was really hitting me because second grade I had an unbelievable teacher, Mrs. Shupin, who we had the privilege, her boys and her husband were members with us for a while. So she was my second grade teacher, and I think she was able to bring that. She was very motherly. She was very comforting to me. She was just a very, very sweet woman, had a great relationship with my mother, who actually worked in the building. And that was those were great experiences. So I got to third grade, and I knew who my teacher was, and it was Miss Grodzinski, right? And I knew my brother had her. And of course, now that I look back, she was a sweet woman and many nice things. But for some reason, I had this fear of being in her class, and I was very nervous. I was very anxious to the point where I would get myself sick. I would throw up. I would go to the nurse. I would get nauseous. I would make myself sick in the stomach because I was so nervous about the worst that was going to happen. Right, which might have been failing a test. May have been, I don't know. Who knows what it's crazy. You look back, you don't even know what you were really scared of. Right. So that's part of the lesson. Is at this young age, I had two unbelievable parents that were able to teach me how to adapt and adjust. Now, so there was two solutions to this, or two reactions to this moment. It was all right. He's gonna come home from school all the time. We're going to keep him home. It's going to be a choppy third grade year. Potentially we homeschool him. Maybe it's not the place for him. We give in. Or it was going to be tough love, which my father was better at. My mother actually ended up becoming much better at, especially now as I see them as grandparents. And it was, I called from the nurse's office. It was like, you're going to stick out the rest of the day. You're going to be fine, And they would give me little tools and tactics. They connected me with a teacher across the hallway, Mr. Tramontano. So it was separation sometimes. And I look back, and the teacher, Miss Grodzinski, was amazing because she understood what was going on. So at certain moments, I would raise my hand if I was feeling a certain way, and she'd say, "Go ahead." And I would walk across the hall to Mr. Tramontano's. They had a desk set up for me, and I had a chunk of silly putty on it. And I would play with the silly putty, and I would do my work and my assignment, whatever it may be, you know, writing some letters, writing some sentences, whatever colors, whatever the hell it was. And that was the solution for them in that moment, right? But again, the big picture here, the lesson that I learned as I reflect back, and there was choices in that moment from my parents as leaders to me and as parental figures, and even as me as a child, right? So it taught me that in that moment that's when I first acknowledged that solutions are possible, right? Mm-hmm. That just because this is the way I feel, it doesn't have to be this way. Just because I want to be home and I want to be in my bed, or I want to be on the couch, I want to be comfortable in my living room in my house, it doesn't have to be that way. That there is other things outside in the world, right? So that was my first lesson, and that was my first problem solved in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what got me through third grade, right? That's what got me through that whatever amount of days, but long piece of the journey in my life, starting with love and comfort at a young age. And I think I truly believe that it's not a bad thing, but that's what built that anxiety for me. Is I was so comfortable in love that I didn't think there was anything out there possible that could make me feel any better than that, right?
That was great. I'm going to add to this right away because this is a piggyback story, but third grade was a tough year for me. That was my toughest year as well. I had Miss Polly, and she was feared in this. She had a presence for her, and looking back now, I want you to know that Miss Polly was my favorite, most respected teacher because I feared her standards. Miss Polly ran a tight ship. She was organized. She was detail-oriented. She created standards. She created Polly money. And when you were doing good in school and different things, you would get Polly money because you were good, you would earn, and you'd be able to spend Polly money and get different things. She would buy different stuff and have it, and you could buy. The system she created, looking back, was really unbelievable, honestly. But I feared the pressure at the time. I used to wake up every morning and dry heave and puke and didn't want to go to school and cry every single day. For a while, my parents would wake up. It was this whole thing. So a couple things happened. First, my parents are obviously wanted to work me through it too, right? So they built this thing. They called it the confidence jar. So they built looking back, it was a coffee container, and they wrapped it in paper, and it was called the confidence jar. My mom wrote on it with a slit, and every morning that I could wake up and wake up strong and confident, I would get $1 in the jar, and I wouldn't. If I didn't cry, I couldn't do anything. Another thing, my mom would write, I was a very sweet mama's boy, I still am, but she would write notes to me in my lunchbox. So every day I knew when I went to lunch, I would look up. Mm-hmm. A really crazy story was there was a woman there who went out of her way to step up and help me, which is actually now the mother of one of our good friends, his wife. Right. So that was Pam's mother, which is really cool, but that's just another point in there. But ultimately, that woman went out of her way to sit with me and give me love. She gave me what I thought I could never get, right? But then they worked me through the process, and now looking back, if you know me well enough, you know I like organization, I like attention to detail. So looking back, I think I feared the standard, and now I appreciate and love the standard. But again, love, togetherness, people working together to bring you through and go to the next chapter. Now, you know, some of those things carry on forever as well. I use some of those tactics in my own life today too. So it's pretty cool to see that analogy as well. Third grade, I guess, was a tough year.
And this is just Exhibit A and a prime example of it's almost a mirrored image, but this is out there. Like this is, I'm sure it's out there now more than ever. So more
than ever, I feel for the children.
Yeah, so just know that if you are those people that are in that school, right, or in that setting where there's potentially this help that's needed, step up and be that. Pam's mother, step up. And I remember I had a lunch lady, Miss Georgette, they knew these were people that were aware of the situation, and instead of choosing moments of saying that child is spoiled, they need to learn, they choose moments to give love and give comfort from a different direction, just so the individual can understand that, hey, it's out there everywhere. Like, it's not just for my family. I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm not scared of what bad could happen, right? Because if you treat it the other way, if you really look at it, if the individual that's in that position of leadership treats it as a burden or as something negative, that's where things become even worse, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we all just keep giving off love and kindness and helping each other, then that's what we fear as youth. That's what we fear as we're growing in this world, is that there is something out there different from our family. And in the same sentence, potentially someone is coming from a place where there isn't love and comfort. So still giving them that same love and comfort,
showing them something they never felt. It's beautiful,
so,
right? Yep.
So again, we're given these perspectives to bring it up in our minds and remind everyone, or have everyone reflect that they're not the only ones that go through things like this, right?
Yep.
And that brings me to I guess, for lack of better words, the next chapter, right? So now it was like school was kind of, I found my rhythm a little bit. I was a lot more comfortable. Even making my way into, fourth grade, I had Miss Simmons. She was unbelievable. Again, it's crazy. I'm thinking about it now, but it's just people that gave off truly cared and loved and were there for the individual and the kid. And again, another great experiences through middle school. I had nothing but great educators, great teachers, great role models and leaders. Same with coaches, through Little League, through my, I guess that's getting into elementary school, middle school. But then it got to the world now, right? So now it was like, all right, Paul's getting a little older. My father, again, as I mentioned, worked for the airlines. We did a ton of traveling, which I gave a great story and perspective the other day. So not so much on the way of traveling, but something that I feared and that I was nervous about was getting on that airplane, like most, right? And it was from a young age. It was sometimes it's the opposite. At a young age, the kids, they love flying. They don't even realize it. They don't have those fears until they're leaving things behind that they love. You learn when you're a father, when you're a mother, grandparents. You just get worried. Any flight, could I leave my family behind? That's the thoughts, the real thoughts that go through our heads. So for me, it was none of that. It was just true anxiousness and fear of something that was different and scary. And honestly, my sights weren't. It wasn't on the motion. It wasn't as much on the heights. It was on the place that I was going to and what I was leaving behind. It was that I was going to be in another state. I was going to be in another country. I was going to be in another place. And all that comfort and love was going to be left behind at home, right? So, again, in a family of travel, it was a choice. It was you come with us, you stay home with grandma, right? You stay home with uncle, whatever. You stay home with the neighbors. Like, you're coming, we're traveling. Like, my brother loved traveling. He had no fear of it, of getting on the airplane. My mom and my dad, they loved doing it. Obviously my mom didn't want to leave me behind. But fortunately, I never had to use that option, right? And it started with, I guess around that age was the first time that I went and, went and saw a therapist. And it was Dr. Coffey, I think, somewhere over in Toms River. I remember right off 37 there where all those offices are. He was awesome because he just, again, it was solution-based. It wasn't anything crazy. He literally just taught me how to come up with solutions to different things, different drills, different tactics, things to keep me busy while I'm flying, while I'm going to the airport, get a good night's sleep, eat dinner the night before, just things that he gave to my parents, and they helped me through, And my mom was my travel buddy as expected, right? And my dad and my brother were weaving through traffic through the airport. We're floating behind, making our way to the plane, and I had a couple moments where I got sick on the airplane. Actually, one of them, if there is a story to tell, I was actually probably a little older. It was the first time I think I flew on my own, or one of the first times. I was probably like 15 or 16. I was in high school, and it was summer or winter break, and I was in California with my uncle, and he's driving me back to the airport, and I got sick all over his car.
Oh man!
And I went on the plane. I still went on, and I left him with that. And I'll never forget him calling my parents and telling them that he had to bring it to his car to the what's it called, the car wash, and get it all cleaned out, and the smell was still there for weeks, But it was flying, it was sleepovers. Mom, pick me up. I'm nervous. I just woke up in the middle of the night. No one's awake. No one's here. I would go and grab the landline in the person's house, and my friends and parents would wake up and say, "Paul, are you okay?" And they would know. They would understand. Yeah. And it takes kind, good, loving people, because certain people would just be like, "Get this kid the hell out of here," which I could get sometimes, I guess. Yeah. But then some people would say, "Hey, Paul, you're good. Don't worry. I'll turn on the TV. We'll hang out here. Don't worry about it. I'll wake the boys. Go wake them up. You know what I mean?" And then I'd feel good and positive. They'll be up in 2 hours anyways. Why don't you start helping me with breakfast? Might have been 3-4 a.m., but that parent made a sacrifice for their friends and their kids' friends.
That's beautiful.
Baseball. Was another kind of outside of the school world. I had great coaches and leaders. Fortunately, my father was my coach through Little League as far as the regular season goes. So that was very comforting to me. Also, I I was probably, up to a certain age, probably was one of the best players on the team, so that made me feel better too, that I performed well, and I wasn't nervous about that. Right. But I still had my moments, and most of them came in other levels. When I went and played for travel teams, when I started playing on these all-star teams, and what happened? I started venturing away from home. I started leaving the confines of Holbrook Little League, right? I started, the bus drove away, or the car drove away, and where are we going today? Oh, we're going to Manchester to play? Yeah, this is new to me. This is unknown to me, right? You said the word unknown. Mm-hmm. So, a quick story on that, a little flash story for this chapter was my 12-year-old All-Star year. And I think I might have told this early on, but I'll hit it again for some of our newcomers to the listening to the podcast. We were going to Manchester Little League, where the beginning of the 12-year-old All-Star tournament was hosted. Now, when you're 12 years old, you have the potential to go and play in Williamsport, right? And we had a pretty good team for the area, right? We had, I think the year we won the state or district, or we went through districts and lost like the state finals as 10-year-olds, which is another time opportunity you have to kind of run pretty far. And then as 12-year-olds, we had everyone coming back, right? But on our team was Anthony Renato, who actually played for the Red Sox, the White Sox, and a couple other teams in the MLB. He ended up going to St. Rose. Was got drafted national champion pitcher at LSU. But at this time, we knew he was going to be a great player. He was really, really good. And we're going into this tournament, and our first game to start the tournament off is against Toms River East, right? And the Toms River East team, well, it was their 5-year, if that makes sense math-wise, anniversary of them winning the Little League World Series, because that was Todd Frazier's team, so he's probably a good 5 years older than me, right?
True.
And it was an anniversary of some sort, right? So we pull up into the parking lot, and I'll never forget, it's my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my brother, and they have me in the back, because they know what we're going into, but I don't know what we're going into. Yeah. And I'm in the back, and I'm nervous already, right? And we pull up, and we're in our Chevy Venture. 2 doors open at the same time. You see the commercial where the dolphins jump through it. And I'm sitting there, and I look up, we pull in, I'm ready to go. I got my headphones in because that was a tactic I used. Create that space in my mind, get some music going, get some energy going. And I get out. My grandma lets me, you get out first, go ahead, start getting warmed up. So I get out, and I look, and there's tons of people everywhere because there's games going on in all different fields. And there's these towers, these receptor towers on these trucks. And there's news trucks, right? And there's ESPN, a huge ESPN truck. And on the side it says ESPN The Season. And I look at it and I'm like, God damn it. I was like, that's the season? I watch, for those of you who've ever watched that, go to the vault and look at ESPN The Season, and it's basically like E30 now, right? It's like what they used to do back then. They would highlight a season of a specific team, right? And I'm like, oh, damn, I wonder who they're here for. So, my parents are all, kind of smiling. You're going to go with Coach Harold today. Coach Harold was the assistant coach, and he would always help me because I would get nervous and stuff, but they had this set up for me. So, I go with Coach Harold. We go to the side field where no one's playing, and we're playing. He's like, let's start warming up, right? So, I'm like, Coach Harold, what's going on? He's like, nothing. They're just, some news. There's some coverage here and stuff, so... me, I ask questions, I'm a yapper, I'm sitting there talking about Coach Howell, what's going on here? Their cameras are all pointing towards the field we're playing at. He's like, well, Paul, I'm not going to lie to you, man. He's like, ESPN The Season's here, and they're following Toms River East, so we're playing today, so the cameras are going to be on us the whole entire game. I start throwing up, dude, in the middle of the field. I'm so nervous. He's like, so he would, again, here's a nurturing, loving man. Yes. He had kids of his own who they were a year younger, and Brittany was older than us, a year older than us, and he was here coaching and giving his time, right? To this day, I'm forever grateful for his impact that he had on me, and he was from New York, like a Staten Island or Long Island guy, so he had a little accent. You're good, Paulie, come on, you got this, you're good, let it all out, right? So finally, we warm up. I make my way over literally to the moment they're announcing the lineups, right? He brings me over, right, let's go. Starting at shortstop, number 6, Paul Alvear. I make my way down the line. I'm feeling good. Now, everything's passed. I'm gone. I'm in the moment. That's how unbelievable mental it was for me. I'm in the moment. I'm in it. There's no getting nervous. There's no thinking back. There's none of that, right? So, the game starts. We're down 2 to nothing it was like the 3rd inning, and I come up with runners on 1st and 3rd, and 1 out, and Ronaldo was always batting behind me, so I knew they were going to pitch to me, like they were going to try to roll up a double player, come at me, because they never wanted to face him with runners on.
Yeah.
So that was always my sign. That's why they put me there. They would say, hey, you're going to get good pitches to hit, swing away. I just take my good old long swing at one, and I mash it into the trees in the left field, and the whole run around the base of the place is going nuts. We go up 3-1, we win the game.
It was a home run?
Yeah, this is all on the season, right?
Oh my God.
12 years old, what an experience. Here goes, if you flash back, this kid was throwing up pre-game, he was getting sick in there, and that was a moment for me, because after that game, it wasn't just like, all right, great job, let's go home. Coach Harold pulled me aside, my parents were all talking, I'll never forget. That was when I learned to reflect. And that was when I learned to look back and understand that you were making this crazy situation up in your head of the worst and the most awful things that could happen. And I want you to reflect and see how it really played out.
Right.
And that everything ends up being okay, right? And from that moment on, we reflected. A win, a loss, a great moment, no matter what it was. It was like, you're healthy, you're happy, you're safe, you had fun, you played the game. You won or lost, well, it was all different in different situations. You made an error, again, depending on the game, but you're okay, you're good. Move on, we go back to our family, our life, everything's fine. So confirmation for me was taught in that moment, reflection and confirming that everything was okay. Getting out of that comfort zone, right? The love was still there, the passion was still there, everyone still gave me that nurturing feeling, which I think is always needed, but I was brought out of my comfort zone and it was reflected on, and that was the key. That was a huge learning point in those moments of flying, sleepovers, and sports and competing. It was outside of my home life, outside of my school life, my day-to-day.
I mean, that's a great story. As well as another great lesson is like performance. We take pride in performance. And most people should. Like, you should try to perform on a daily basis. Performing is different than acting. Like, you don't need to act to be something that you're not. Right. Perform at your highest level. And I think one of the other things I hear in that story as well is, like, a lesson learned is, like, how you feel truly doesn't matter due to what needs to get done, right? So, like, in the moment, if you look back, it didn't matter how he felt during, because the reality was he was going to show up and play anyway. So if he could go back and play now, if he had those feelings, he would say, okay, I feel that way, but I'm going to keep preparing. This preparation gets me warmed up, I get my blood flow. He realizes now it was physiological, it was all those things, but the reality is the separation of how I feel and what needs to get done really don't even matter, right? Because he did what had to get done. And now looking back, that's who he is today. He knows that, there's going to come these feelings in different ways, but I'm going to put them in, I'll feel them, but then I'll know it doesn't really matter. Right. So what needs to get done, I'm going to perform.
And thinking back to, like, middle school, high school, after I learned that was probably, like, you're 12 years old, maybe 5th, 6th grade, right? 7th grade, around that time, in middle school, right? I had a journey of middle school and high school where I learned that was my lesson. That was it. I felt good. I had no problem going to school. I had moments where I was anxious and butterflies and stuff, but it wasn't as bad as it ever was. It was just getting better and better, and it was because, again, I learned to use those tools and tactics. I in a sense, in those moments, I perfected going to school. I perfected the competition end of it, and it was all good. I'm sure when levels arose and when we got to state tournament games, it came back a little bit, but I knew how to hush it down. I knew how to quiet the noise. Right, that's a word that's used a lot, and how to focus on the mental end. A lot of reading. And I go back now. It's listening. It's podcasts. It's watching films, short films, watching documentaries. Then it was a lot of reading. It was Roger Clemens books. It was Mel Stoudemire books. It was just different articles, different stories, different perspectives. For me, it was athletes, using them because those were my role models, but also listening to things outside of the actual sport, how they prepared, how they trained, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it goes into what we do now, right?
100%. I would like to break this down into the sense of understanding that everything is energy. Life is about energy. So, like, I would like to consider the Relentless facility, our team, what we do as a power plant. Okay, and our job is for people to come and get energized and re-energized back up to go back out into the world. And what we do is we teach how to use energy. And I believe that anxiety is energy, but what you do with the energy is important, right? So if you allow the energy to take you over, that's not good. If you take the energy, I call compartmentalizing. That's something I taught myself over my years of coming from a short temper, no patience, anger management, short fuse, irrational beginnings. What I started realizing was I would get this wave of energy or emotion, and I wouldn't know what to do with it, and I would irrationally act. And then as I started reflecting, like we just talked about, I didn't like how I felt after. I never did anything good. I broke stuff. I punched holes in the walls. I did things. I yelled. The things and the people that I love the most, I was impacting negatively.
Right.
And so in my head, I'm like, I just don't like this feeling. And that's what started teaching me that I didn't like the feeling. But the reality was this, is I got a lot of fire in my heart and soul. I have to figure out how to use it, because if I don't, it's never going to go anywhere. It's a lot of energy, right? So to this current day, it's been, I don't even know anymore. It's over 2 years, but like I 6 days a week, I wake up very early and I prime myself, and the work is the work. When I wake up at 3:45, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait. But honestly, as of late, I'm really excited, honestly, to wake up. But it's more because I'm addicted to the feeling I have right before I leave my house. So at 3:45 to 5:45, it's a lot of work, okay, that takes place. But it's ultimately for the energy that I am feeling inside of myself to begin my day. And I know that this is what it takes in order for me to be who I need to be, so that I can perform as the leader, the man, the husband, the father, the son, all those things that I take pride in being, to be my best self there. So I have to sacrifice my time and energy, but it's for the better, right? And I feel like that's one of the big messages we try to get out. We do host a Relentless Priming class a couple times a week inside of our facility, but getting that energy out of taking control of your energy to start the day internally before you enter the external world, because the reality is that world doesn't care, and it's going to send energy your way. So what are you going to do with it? Does it engulf you, or have you put your armor on for the day to stand up and be like, nah, hold on, like this energy is not going to come in, I'm going to put it over here, or no, I want this, like to pick and choose. That is true empowerment of a human, to really stay in control of your energy. So like I break it down to kind of that feeling, because if you could understand feelings, you understand, do you like the feeling or do you not like the feeling? We were talking about this pre-show again with our children and having moments of lessons. There's every second with a baby. My baby's 20 months old. Every single moment is a teaching moment, and I'm taking advantage of every single one. I'm very present, I'm in tune, but it's amazing to watch that. But what it also is these energies. She doesn't like if she lets me down, or not like in a bad way, but if she does something, she knows the energy shift and she doesn't want that. So as a 20-month-old human, she feels that and understands that. That's the same thing we have as humans as well. The difference now is that we are a little older and we should use wisdom and knowledge to say and apply and say, okay, where I am today and the way that I feel is not what I want. This is not where I want to be. So how am I going to get to that next place? And this is what we're...
And one thing we talk about a lot, and I really want to bring up now, is that the fact that the opportunity is there for a human to be wired, right? For lack of better words, to be developed. And you have that choice to, at any moment in your life, to rewire yourself.
Yes.
And what that means is to put yourselves in positions to get better at certain things, to change the coding, to change the wires that are touching, to cut them out, to add new ones, to do whatever you feel is right to do that. And for me, the last experience of the old wired me and the old him, for lack of better words, right, was my college experience. And again, it was another chapter and another moment that I was going into where I had all this comfort and this love at home, and now even more, if you think about it, even more stacked on top, because now I built friends that became family. I had so much positive and beautiful love and influence in my life. I had better relationships just in general because I was older now, right? With my parents, with my grandparents, with cousins, with aunts, with uncles, with whatever it may be. I'm 18, 19 years old now, so I'm just more established in those in that connection of love and of kindness, right? So now I go off into this world, and thankfully enough, it was with a good friend that I was a roommate with, and I had another good friend. I had Mark, who was my roommate, Bergery, who I'm still very close with to this day, and then our buddy Chris Ray, who we were very friendly with, and he was at the school with us as well, right? So we go away out to Albright, Pennsylvania, 2 hours away, It's nowhere crazy far. You're not getting an airplane, but it's just far enough where you know you can't get in the car and drive home any minute, right, overnight. So I intentionally knew it was in my best interest to go away with a roommate and with someone that I knew already, right? And had the opportunity to play a little baseball there early on, but as I really learned, that wasn't really, that was just part of it, right? What happened with me was this. What I learned was that, and it was crazy because it was a twofold lesson, right? It didn't take just Albright and one college stop. It took another college stop. I got there. Everything was great. It was fresh. It was new, right? We were busy. It was freshman year. We were experiencing all the fun things. We were partying. We were going to class together. We were hanging out at certain nights, right? And then boom, sophomore year hits. It all changes because now we're more routine, we're more scheduled, we're more serious. Football tomorrow goes to another level, right? I see baseball starting to go to another level. It's meetings, it's time off the field. It's another job. I didn't see Mark the whole football season. He was out of the dorm room at 5 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m., and back in at 8, 9 p.m. at night, right? We see each other in the food hall passing, but what happened for me is it was another moment where I was disconnected from comfort, right? And I was disconnected from the person or people that gave me that love and that weren't unknown, right?
Energy,
and I struggled. I could talk, I could make friends, but I could never fully let anyone in because it was just that in that short period of time, because I couldn't fathom in my head that it was going to be anything like what I already had, right? So that was my challenge. In that moment, I decided to transfer to East Stroudsburg, right? Why East Stroudsburg? Part of it was they had a major that was suitable to me at that moment, right? But another part of it was I had another friend there, right? I had my buddy Nick there. Cool. I go there. What happens? Same exact thing. First semester is great. We're spending time. We're hanging out. He's showing me the ropes. We're partying. We're going to class together. We're eating breakfast. We're meeting up. We're in touch. And then boom. He becomes the head of a sorority, a fraternity, right? When do I see Nick? Once in a blue moon now, right? I'm isolated. I'm connected to a roommate that's in his fraternity who's never home. I'm in this apartment off campus, on my own, in a new place. I didn't even have the ability to be there for a year or two where I knew people. I was there for one semester, not even, right? So in that moment, my parents helped me make a decision. So this was a huge turning point, and this is when I made the decision to fully start rewiring myself. After phone calls with my parents and nights and moments of me panicking and having to go to the middle of campus and crying and getting sick and not being able to sleep or get stuff done, or sometimes not even have the ability to think for myself, right? Mm-hmm. They came up with the solution of I am going to connect with the student campus center, and I'm going to find whether it be a guidance counselor, a therapist, whoever it may be, to connect with. And I connected with this woman, and I still need to go back and remember her name and look her up. I'm sure she's not there anymore. This was 10 plus years or so ago, and I met with her on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I remember it being 10:30 a.m. on both days because the way my schedule worked up. I would go to my 9 to it was like a 50-minute class, and I would go right over, or 9 to 9:15 class, or 10:15 class, and I would go right over to the student center. I would wait in the office, and I would go in and I'd meet with her. And it was different because it wasn't let out and tell me all your feelings. It was right away, let's work on solutions. Let's work on getting better. Day one, here's the drill. Talk about priming. Drill number one was let's learn how to disconnect our mind from our body, right? Let's sit there, move your ankles, squeeze your quads, right? Squeeze your core. Feel that you have control over every part of your body, right? Almost to a point, close your eyes, relax, take deep breaths now, where you're completely disconnected. Now we're going to talk about how you feel, right? Because you're going to disconnect from everything else. And that took me to a whole nother level of openness in that moment to want to come back every time and this woman give me tools. She was nice, she was nurturing, she was loving, but she also gave me tools and equipped me with ways of bettering myself, right? Here's a notebook. When you're in class and you have all these thoughts, write them down, and then we'll talk about them. Remember, don't hesitate to ever make a schedule to give a phone call. You know a time when your mom has lunch, you make that call at lunch to your mom every time she has lunch. If it's Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, create a schedule. Create a routine. know that. Also, let's talk about how that routine is going to be broken sometimes, and that's okay.
Yep.
Let's create the routine to know that it's going to be broken, and then when it's broken, reflect on how you feel in those moments that the routine is broken and you're thrown off a little bit, right? It was a beautiful thing. So this is where the word comes up and came into play. She asked me, it was like probably a third or fourth meeting. She said, what is a thing that's happening commonly that we still need to address and we can't get over? And I don't know where it came from, but out of my mouth came, I'm just awfulizing too much. And we make up words a lot, right?
Yeah, right.
And she looks at me and she's like, I never heard that word before, but it makes a lot of sense. And she goes, well, define it for me. And I said something to the effect of, I'm making every moment in front of me, I'm thinking it up to be the most awful thing is going to happen. So to me, I'm awfulizing. You could generalize, right?
Yeah,
I'm awfulizing, right?
Yeah.
She goes, beautiful.
Cool.
You're going to use that word, and we're going to make sure that word is never truly used in your actions. So like
put to action.
Yeah, like we know that's what you think that's something, but now let's make sure that there's no more awfulizing.
Cool.
Right? So that was the last piece of the puzzle for me, right? To start with anxiety, which turned into a lot of panic, and ultimately ended up in me awfulizing, right? So I learned how to do many things to the fullest now. I took pieces of lessons along my journey, from keeping myself busy and active, right, which brought fitness and activity into my life, through sport and just through me, right, through the personal bettering myself, educating myself mentally, right? So being able to read books more. I started reading books more then, listening to things. I wasn't podcasts, but watching documentaries and learning other perspectives more, right? Being more open-minded and creating a schedule and a routine. And knowing that you have things in place that are going to hold you accountable. So for me, and I'm going to come fast forward to this day right now, we run a very schedule-based system, which most people do in the world, right? There's meetings, there's this. Like everyone's life, when they wake up, they know there's some type of schedule. A small percentage of people wake up and they don't have things that are on their calendar, especially nowadays, on their task sheet, right? Or even a to-do list. I know I do my schedule to start the week because that's just the nature of our business, right? And that's just how we want to operate. And then I know in my head that schedule could change. And once I saw that happen and reflected on it, instead of it all just being out in the atmosphere and things changing and me panicking, I knew that, okay, it's changed. I crossed it off. I canceled it. I move it to here, right? It's more tangible. It holds me more accountable. So these systems that were created along the way, this therapist helped me bring it all together in these college moments. And what was also happening too, I want to also reflect on it, something that I wanted to bring up was, there was the disconnect for me in those moments in college was what 99% of college students have going on, whether it's at a different degree or not. I had stuff going on at home and health issues with someone in my family that I knew that I wasn't there for to help, right? So here I am, not only being away from everything, but knowing that I'm in a position to be strong and help this individual in my family, and I couldn't be there in person at that moment. So there was a lot of things going on. Ultimately, the decision was made to transfer back to New Jersey, to commute to school, to King University, and Matt and I reconnected even more so at that point, and that's when we started the relentless journey. And we brought our original wiring of ourselves together, and we started to rewire ourselves and rewire each other, and then figure out ways to rewire our community, our people, and bring different ways to better everyone physically, mentally, emotionally to the table. And that's how we came about the relentless way and this relentless journey, right? To come full circle now.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's what you say. I like that. It's really amazing. Well said and well put together. Something I want to highlight is he used the word awfulizing, which I love. It's creation. We love to do that all the time. But more than that is acknowledging and giving power to something. And I feel like most people don't want to do that. Like, they don't want to acknowledge. They want to run away. Like, they don't. People don't want to get down to the nitty gritty. And I feel like a lot of the people that I am blessed to work with, when I do get to work with them, they've worked with different people. And listen, I'm not a licensed professional, and I can tell you that, like, there's definitely things out of my control that I can help, right? But then there's a lot of things that we do pride ourselves in being able to help. And one of the things that we do is we're very just honest and straightforward with people, like that woman was with you, that allowed him to feel warm and comfortable enough to allow it just for it to come out. Because whatever, he could have called it anything. It didn't matter, but it allowed him to portray what he was feeling. And in that moment, that woman used that to then give him a tool to combat that. So that is one of the biggest secrets for me. And I feel like one of the things I do and I take a lot of pride in, I'm listening to a podcast right now with Andy, which I talk about a lot, but it's redefining men of today, and it's going very deep on just it's men, but I could take it into humans, right? And one of the things he said was amazing. Of a lot of times people don't know how to deal with all the energy inside, and one of the things he says is, as a man, it's not as common, but something he allows and gives and empowers men and allows them to be able to do is to have an emotional release. And it's not there's a time and a place for it, don't get me wrong, but there's science behind all that emotional feeling, and even like to let out a cry, let's say, and to cry, right? And a lot of people don't want to do that, but it's scientifically, actually, I just learned this, that a true deep cry of just releasing it for a second scientifically drastically drops cortisol levels when you have a full release. If you actually think now, because when he said that, I started reflecting, because what I do every morning is I go very deep into a state of visualization, and I go far into my anxiety. So now I don't let it come to me, I go to it. So I go deep in my mind, and my eyes are closed, and I'm in a place where I forcefully go in to the anxious thoughts. I go into the unknown world and I play with it. I go there, and in those dark moments of my mind, I find solutions. I call it the cocoon. It's deep. It's dark in there, and it's scary. But because I purposefully choose to go, and I know all the support and the love that I have all around me, and I know someone's got to go to the dark side. So if I don't go to the dark side will come in. We all have it. It'll overwhelm you. But I choose every day to go to it. So I decide when I open the door and go in, and then I come out, and it's a choice. But in those moments, I make it so real for myself that I do have emotional dumps and releases I could feel, and I release, and I use those tools to then release and then focus on more solutions. So what I'm trying to ultimately say, to wrap it all together, would be, number one, it makes me so proud to hear that there's people out there. Paul highlighted so many different people throughout his journey that took the choice, because it is a choice, to nurture, love, go above and beyond to give tools and tactics. And I think that's the pride that we take, is to really understand each individual specifically as a person, and try to get down to the nitty gritty of why and where does this root come from. And the hardwire, just like you were hardwired, you could be re-hardwired, right? And you could understand that, what Paul said earlier. And that's the pride that we take, not because we know everything, but we know what we know, and we know what we did, like Paul said, and the ability to say, all right, we know the energies and the feelings that we like and that we don't like, so how do we start amplifying and compounding the ones we like and getting rid of the ones we don't like? And it's going to come by sitting and understanding the tools and the tactics that we have in our belt, and when to pull them out and when to use them. And then the big thing, I think, is to then know when is the right time to understand to have those feelings or emotional shifts and changes, right? And I think that's the big thing now that we work on day in and day out, is the ability now to control the energies inside, and to know there's a place to go, and to go deep inside of your mind to help find solutions. And then there's a time to be present, and then there's a time to listen to others. There's a time to give advice. But the thing that we've done very well as we reflect is we've always stayed open-minded. We've always tried to learn from everyone else around us, and now our mission is to just constantly give and relate, and to keep using these stories to connect with everybody else. So I think full circle is, again, let's be proud of the acknowledgement that Paul displayed, and the ability now to show, like, we all got this stuff going on, right? So it's like, what do we do now? Like, what do you do when you know? You know, so that...
I think one thing I definitely want to do is acknowledge those people that you mentioned, right? Like, just in general, for everyone's journey, I think everyone should take time to acknowledge those people that think back that in moments of, whether it be positive, successful moments, struggle. Because remember, successful moments could bring negativity too. There's a lot of people that in the world that naturally go to jealousy and hate because someone is doing well, or someone is having success or overcoming something. It takes a very strong individual to still stand behind and support that person during success and during overcoming something, and not say, oh, well, everyone does that, you know? instead of celebrating it with them. It takes a very, very strong person to celebrate in that moment and then just keep trucking forward, right? So I want to take that moment to acknowledge the coaches that I had, like I mentioned, the Harolds, the therapists, who else within there? The teachers, the lunch ladies, the friends, the family, and most of all, obviously, our parents, who to this day are still play those same exact roles. That they give us the confidence and the reaffirmation of love, right? Of comfort enough, but have slowly over the time watched us build our own comforts and come out of our comfort zone, and that's where we found a lot of our successes. So kudos to them. Thank you forever grateful for all those people, our parents, and those individuals that we mentioned. And I want everyone to take the moment to reflect on those people in their lives as well. And I also want to reflect on the fact that along the whole journey and all the stories that I give, if there's one thing that we do highlight is that there are those people, and for me it was my parents and my family, that they were working on it with me, right? So again, not everyone has somebody that goes along that journey with them, right? So if you are that lunch lady, if you are that school teacher, if you are that coach, if you are that relentless coach, right? Remember that not everyone has that. So at any given moment, someone could find in you that individual that is going to take them and guide them and be next to them enough to make them feel comfortable enough and be loved enough to overcome whatever it is they face on their journey, And, as we mention all the time, our goals, and I know my goal as a father and a leader, is to naturally give off that love, but also learn from my experience and my past and kind of try to fight that natural instinct to make, my son or my whatever, children that I have so comfortable, and try to put some more uncomfortable moments in front of them, So if there's one thing that I did learn, and I'm sure if I ask my parents right now, they'll tell me, we wouldn't change what we did, but for sure, I'm sure we could have made you a little more uncomfortable, but in retrospect, who really knows, right? So my point being is that it was more internal, built off comfort and love, right? That's what Matt said. We're driven. We're humans. We're driven off energy, right? And if we could find a way to build ourselves up to a certain point and then rewire that energy and constantly keep rewiring and working on it and grooming it and taking care of it, we'll see ourselves going towards some great places in life and accomplish some great things. From us to everyone listening, to everyone in our Relentless community.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, love, we talk about love, he's saying love. I mean, that's what it's about, right? It's like, first you must love yourself, be proud of yourself, and if you're not, that's okay. The first step would be acknowledging and then figuring out how to create a version of yourself that you could love, right? Because that's okay. I mean, it's real, but acknowledging that that's real, like, you must first love yourself, be proud of yourself, and then you could give that to others. And I think, just to add to what Paul said, is I think that's our mission, is to be that for everyone that comes through, right? Is to be the answer. I mean, we found, I don't think you give too much love, right? Especially in grown people. You think about it, there's like a statistic with, like, most people don't get like an affirmation of like, hey, good job, or like any type of nurture. I think it's like after 10 or 12 years old. It's like very, very rare. So to go above and beyond to bring a person in, like I'm a hugger, like I'm that type of guy. It's just who I am. But it helps people, and it allows them to just like, And I think if that's our mission, is to give that feeling of safety, security, comfort, but then at the same time, then teach and guide for the unknowingness. It's like, it's the lamb and the lion, right? I think too many people don't know how. Everybody wants to be the lion, right? But the reality is that we should all be the lamb and love, and then know when to let the lion out. My lion's exposable in a second, but I'm a lover. I'm more comfort and sweet, but then I got him ready at any moment, right? So that was a big shift for me as well, and I think every human has that in you, but it's the ability to understand how to allow them to work like for you to have control of them, and to not walk around with a guard up. No one needs a guard up all the time. Be kind, love, help people, and then it all comes back around. So I think that's the mission, that's the Relentless way. It's what we do day in and day out. We will keep doing that. Our team is stronger than ever. The culture is high. So, it makes us very proud to be able to not only help the people inside of our community, but help our coaches evolve into the next best version of themselves so that this line can trickle just down and it just keeps expanding through the relentless movement and the relentless way.
And there it is, plain and simple, the relentless way. Podcast episode number 9, season number 3. We'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's get it.